Hello, I'm Sister Joanna Ionati from Wisdom House. I'm Art and Spirituality Coordinator here at Wisdom House. And today I'd like to invite you to a preview of the next show that will be in our gallery, our Louise Trichet Gallery. The title of the show is Sacred Moments. And you'll have the opportunity, when you come to the show, to see the works of two women Connecticut artists, Ashby Carlisle and Lisa Bell. Time, as you know, is a very elusive thing. Sometimes we think in great swaths of times, like years or centuries. But when we look back at time, when we look back at the moments of time, we often realize that they are really the result. Time is really the result of sacred moments being threaded together. And these sacred moments we sometimes only appreciate in retrospect. So today I'd like to introduce you to our two artists. The show will open at Wisdom House on January 21st and will run through April 8th. So if you have the opportunity, come and join us during this time frame, and we'd be happy to have you experience the sacred moments through the art of Ashby Carlisle and Lisa Bell.
Good afternoon, I'm Ashby Carlisle. I'm a sculptor from Old Lyme, Connecticut, and I have been sculpting since the late 60s. And the work in this show is part of a recent body of work that I've been working on, and I refer to them as sculptural landscapes. And they are three-dimensional landscapes versus what most people have on the wall for landscapes that are two-dimensional on a flat plane. And I'd like to point out a few of the details that are unique to my particular pieces. The first thing is that the pieces have an impressionist feel to them. So I come from Old Lyme, Connecticut. I spent my summers there as a child visiting my grandfather, and then I've lived there for 30 years. And Old Lyme is the birthplace of American Impressionism, and it has this wonderful, special, magical light that floats all over the marshlands. And that is part of what you see in my landscapes, that I was working with that light, thinking about how to create paper for the luminous skies that are floating over the marshlands that were similar to what the Impressionists were experiencing. And I was looking for a new material because the traditional ones in art, watercolors, and any of the paints have a thickness to them, they have an opacity to them, and I was trying to get something that was very, very translucent. And so I went back to my early sculptural period where I was making cotton sculptures over metal armatures, and I dyed the fabric with what's called fiber-reactive dyes that chemically bond with the cellulose fibers. And so I went out to find the highest rag content paper I could find and started to experiment with using those dyes, and this is what resulted in these sculptural landscapes. And then the second element that's unique to these are vines. And I have been enthralled with vines and roots and actually plant forms of any kind, but especially vines. When I was young in 7th grade, I did a science experiment where I put lima beans in between two sheets of glass. And you set them in water, and the roots grow down to the ground, and the shoots grow up to the sky, and you take and you rotate that glass 90 degrees, and the roots will go down, and the shoots will go up again, and you end up with this amazing matrix of roots and shoots growing around and around in a spiral. And I have been fascinated by how vines and roots travel and traverse. I'm intrigued by vines because of their strength and their tenacity, especially in light of man trying to tame and eradicate them. And the other thing that I really am drawn to about vines is their calligraphic quality. They're twisting and they're turning and they're meandering ways. And when you see them silhouetted against these skies in Old Lyme, you have a very distinct calligraphic black against the bright sky. And it feels as if, for me, that these vines are writing messages in the skies. Lastly, if you look back into the sky, I am trying to create a dialogue between the plant forms or nature and man, and thinking about communication and dialogue between the two of them. So I was thinking about language and man's language and the development of it, and thoughts that we have reside in our brains, such as the thoughts of my putting this lecture together. And the words that we write reside on a piece of paper, but where do the words that we speak go? And I thought about and imagined how all the languages and all the speaking and communication of man throughout our course of history have all gone into the atmosphere, and how they crisscross and jumble together very much like all the root forms underneath the ground. And so I created papers of languages from 7 different cultures over the course of history, and I have copied them one on top of the other in order to create this giant matrix. And the point of this is I'm trying to create the idea of potential and positive going forward versus attempting to record history.
You're invited to come to their show, which will open on January 21st, and it will open with an artist lecture at 3:30 p.m. So please come if you are in the area.